My name is Tamathy, and I grew up in a small town in Missouri, and I'm the oldest of 21 children. There are 12 girls, 9 boys, same parents, no twins. 5 minutes? I'll set my own 5 minutes. I didn't cheat and give myself 6. Okay, so I grew up in Missouri, and when I was a teenager, I carried The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy with me everywhere I went. Is anybody else? Yeah? A lot of nodding? Oh, I carried that book everywhere with me, and I wanted so much to be kidnapped by aliens. I stood out in the pasture outside of our house, and pleaded and begged, please, I'm right here, I'm waiting. But the aliens didn't come. But I carried that book around with me. It was so important to me. And you know, I've loved so many books since then and so many stories, but that story, I just had to have it with me all the time. It changed me. But as I was growing up, there were other stories that were changing me, and they were the stories that were all around me and the stories that were my life. I love story now more than I ever have before, because I stand up here and I look out at all of you and I see that there are how many millions of stories in this room with us right now? I know how many, 1,000,000 stories are inside of me. And I have 20 brothers and sisters and millions of stories inside of them and all of my family. And so I know in this room there are millions of stories and I get so hungry for them. But I know that they're there, so even though you're not telling them to me right now, I can feel them. I used to sit at my grandma and grandpa's house and sit, and it was just filled with smoke. It was a really old house that had like 4 wood stoves in it. It only had like 4 rooms, but it still had a wood stove in every room, and everyone smoked too, and so it was just this hot, smoke-filled room full of old people and huge guys in overalls, big overalls. And you know, it still had an outhouse in the back, and it had a pump in the kitchen, and a cook stove that we had to heat water on for the bathtub in the kitchen. And but that wasn't the story. The story was sitting around the table and listening to these voices, these people that were related to me, that I came from, and they were so different from me. They would never have liked Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Not at all. But I came from them, and I loved Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy because I loved their stories, and they were the first ones to give me their stories. And I sat and listened to them and watched them smoke. I was fascinated watching them smoke cigarette after cigarette and light one with the other. But I listened to their stories and their voices, and it filled me. And that happens still today. My grandmother is 80 years old, and this week she had 2 small heart attacks. She didn't go to the hospital the first time. She just stayed in her room, and she felt pretty good. But then the second one, she thought she might need to mention that to someone, and so she did. And so she had double bypass surgery, and she is awake now and doing really well. But I think about all the stories that are inside of her and how I need to talk to her right away. And my brothers and sisters are doing this too, and my family. They're remembering all of the stories that she's already given us, and they're thinking about how many more are trapped inside of her, and how close we came to losing her this week and losing all of those stories, and how hungry we are for them now at that realization that they could have been gone. She tells a story of growing up Mennonite and walking home from school, and she found a tiny thing of lipstick on the ground. And she wasn't supposed to wear lipstick. She wasn't supposed to roll her socks that came up all over the way over her knees, roll them down on her way to school, but she did every day. And so she put this lipstick on the way to school. And one of the women that she went to church with saw her. And she said, "Gloria Howell, you look like a chicken's butt." And so my grandma wiped it up and pulled her socks way back up over her knees. But she told us that story and so many other stories, and I'm so thankful for them, and I can't wait to hear what else she has for us before they're lost. And I hope I get to hear yours. Get up on the stage and tell your stories. Enough of mine. You've all heard so many of mine. I want to hear yours now. That's what I have to say tonight.
Yeah.